Beyond the Mat is a coming of age story. It's basically about this high school senior. He's a star wrestler, and his best friend is also a high school star champion wrestler. And they have a crosstown rival named Bradshaw. And Aaron and Bo, the two best friends, both want a shot at Bradshaw. And basically the story revolves around, on its most basic level, Aaron and Bo having to come to terms with where their friendship lies and how they have to go through each other to wrestle this other guy to be considered like the top wrestler in the state. So there's also a more complex element to it as well. Aaron is a Vietnamese American who was adopted as a young child, so he doesn't actually have a real good understanding or respect for his Vietnamese heritage. And a large part of this film takes place or covers his discovery of that and of him really coming to terms with who he is and accepting that. And there's also the classic love elements to it. We're in high school, so Aaron is got a wonderful girlfriend, but he also, there's a wonderful character by the name of Lynn that's played by Teresa Michelle Lee, who is Vietnamese as well, and that kind of is stirring things in Aaron that he's not quite sure of. For the first time in his life, he's starting to doubt, am I supposed to be with this girl, or maybe this new girl coming in, maybe I should be with her. And so it's a wonderfully complex story that I think is told and has been put together in a very, very wonderful way that's very relatable to our audiences.
John was attached to Beyond the Mat as an actor before we came on as a production company, and as it was getting a little bit closer towards production, the financing needed to come in, and we had some contacts for that, and we were able to bring in the financing on the film and bring a lot of the pieces together of crew, and a lot of the other cast came from John's manager at the time for acting, and we brought in a lot of cast members from there, and we were able to put a really good team together so that we were able to jump forward and start production.
And while I was actually in front of the camera, Kurt and two of our other business partners, Diego and Monica, were running a lot of the day-to-day on-set productions. And so, again, it's what we were talking about, indie films. They were wearing multiple hats. Each one of them was, not only just considered the producer officially, but UPMing, line producing,
AD
wardrobe design, all sorts of
locations.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was being juggled between all of us.
We were fortunate enough, obviously, that because I was involved so early. One, everyone who came in to read kind of had to read with me on the chemistry side of it. But again, because we were tied into it on the production side and on the financial side of bringing in the money, we were able to say, look, well, we want to have some say here with creatively casting it. Obviously, my manager at the time gave us the opportunity to have a wonderful selection of actors. But we read 10 bows at least that made it to the part of actually chemistry testing outside of just like normal auditioning process. That actually came in to read with me. And we did. We actually played out the entire sequences and scenes. We had 4 or 5 major scenes, and some of it was a physical thing, matching up physically. Did we physically look like we were the same age, or did we physically?
Can you wrestle each other?
Can you wrestle each
I know.
other?
That's why I was asking those.
Those things are important.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate enough that I had wrestled in high school and knew how to wrestle. We knew that our villain would probably have to know how to wrestle. With our Bo character, we were flexible. It really came down to if they were athletic and could learn the things, we would be okay with that. It wasn't necessarily they had to know how to wrestle. And for our sake, Mark came in. He had never wrestled in high school, but he was an athlete enough that he could learn to do it. So that was an important thing for us. But ultimately, what it came down to is we did all these chemistry reads, and Mark and I felt like just in the room, we had been best friends for a long time. Even though we had just really met and were just starting to spend some time together, even then, it felt like we had known each other for a very long time, and that believably we could have been growing up 2 best friends. And so that was a huge, huge part of it.
And even compared to someone else who might have been a star wrestler themselves.
Exactly.
Mark
Exactly.
and John had such a great connection, and it was such a perfect fit that it was worth the time and energy that we put in as a team, and that Mark especially put in to learn.
And honestly, it also came down. Mark was just a fantastic actor, and so he killed his audition, and he also killed his chemistry read. That's a given. He destroyed that part of it.
Did he kill you on the mat too?
He did. John came away with
destroyed.
Everybody had a few injuries.
Let's just break it down here. Jonathan Klowski, who plays Bradshaw, our villain per se in the video, he is actually a professional fighter. He's an MMA fighter. So he's an actor, but he is a professionally trained fighter. I obviously wrestled in high school, but in the scope of things, I am the smallest person in that threesome of Jonathan being the biggest guy, Mark is in the middle, and then there's me. And I gained a tremendous amount of weight in this movie, which I've now been fortunate to lose most of it. It still is very difficult when, you know, Mark, who's a bigger guy, or Jonathan, especially, who's a much bigger guy and skilled and trained in that thing, are slamming you repeatedly in the mat. And we had the discussions early on in production meetings of, you know, should we think about getting the actors stunt doubles? I mean, it's a legitimate question.
And how many times can they actually perform this if they do it themselves?
And I think the mistake was we obviously did not get stunt doubles. We did all of our own stunts. We did all of our own wrestling. We had really great coaches and trainers who put us through that. But I think I personally, and you probably warned me of this, overestimated how much we as actors were willing to be. You know, on the producing side, I was like, oh, we'll be fine. I could do 40 takes of this. We're in great shape.
Yeah.
But after 10 takes of actually doing the wrestling, and we were doing, the way we shot the wrestling sequences, we had full matches choreographed out. But it wasn't like we were just shooting bits and pieces. We actually were shooting multiple cameras, and the entire sequence. And we just kept doing it over and over again. By take 7, all of us were just smoked. We were just dead. But I got to give it to Hapka and I got to give it to Jonathan. They marched on through. I think, if anything, I was the biggest diva by sure. I was like, oh, we need a break.
I picked you up off the ground a couple
I think multiple
times.
times I called the producer card and was like, I'm a producer here, and we really need to take a break for my fellow actors. Not for me, but for my fellow actors. And, you know.